we see ups and downs like this and swings that are emotional. So these are emotional responses to external circumstances, which you may or may not have been party to, or may not have actually created yourself.
Right.
The only response that you can have to actually right the ship is you got to go back to facts. You got to go back to logic.
Yeah.
Staying focused on the details, because facts don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy. Zach and I are in studio today at the white desk.
We are here.
Love the white desk.
Wow, that was impressive. That was like 1.25 speed.
I know, man. You know what? Everybody tells us they listen to our podcast at 1.25 speed.
Is that real?
Adam edits our podcast at like 1.75 or 2.
We sound like chipmunks in here.
Anyways, welcome back, everybody, to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. Zach and I and Chris, we've all been doing a lot of coaching this last couple of months, a lot of new agent coaching, a lot of agents who've been in the business for a year. Some actually been in the business for many years.
Yeah, a little variety of everything.
And we've been finding these themes that we need to circle back to and teach on and coach on. And one of the things that's come up that is a problem, is a challenge, is a recurring issue that we see is agents getting commission breath, getting that stanky breath.
Yeah.
What is that? What is commission breath to you? When I say agents getting commission breath, what does that mean to you, man?
Man, it's what it does. I imagine a dog sitting there wagging their tail, drooling from their mouth, or you're about to hand them that ham bone or something. They're like it's a new agent or an existing agent, or for whatever reason, any agent that is desperately trying or needing or relying on a sell. And so in that, the way they talk is different. Their energy, their whole engagement,
their body language,
every
tone,
aspect
everything
of what they're doing is it's almost begging. They're almost a beggar in a situation where they're trying to help a client. Yeah.
It's a very sad and weak and pathetic position to be in.
Yeah, and you typically don't notice it till afterwards.
Well, you don't notice when you're in it because you're desperate.
Yep.
You ever been in a situation where you thought you were going to get stopped by the police? Like you were rolling down the road.
No, Roger.
And you're rolling down the road and you're doing 15 over, and you go by a cop that was pulled off underneath the overpass, and you're like, "Oh crap, I think he got me." Right? What happens, man? Your body goes into like complete panic. You start slowing down. You're trying not to brake too hard, too fast, because you don't want them to see him hit the brake lights, because then you're caught. It just goes into complete panic, right? Your body starts to sweat. Everything is happening all at once. All the physiological responses are happening. You're trying to merge over to get in front of another car so he can't see you. You're thinking, oh, I hope he didn't see me. I hope he was looking at someone else. Everything goes out the window about your normal function. You're in desperation mode, hoping not to get caught. Like, that's what I think about when I think of people selling in a desperate situation. Like, all practicality and all normal protocol of how they should act and proceed gets thrown out the window, and you're in a desperate situation. You can maybe throw a car chase or something up here. Something. I could see like Dukes of Hazzard getting run down by sheriff. I don't know what his name.
Boss Hog, Man, I'd be honest. I didn't imagine a car chase in this scenario.
I was thinking of what's that guy? P. Coltrane. What was his name? I forget what his name. Boss Hog, but his deputy, the cop. Oh. Anyways, we'll figure it out. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
I'm talking about the old school Dukes of Hazzard, not the movie that came out later. I'm talking about old school. Anyway, Roscoe P. Coltrane. There you go.
Yeah,
chasing the boys. It throws everything else out the window. You're desperate. You're in a desperate situation. Agents get into this desperate situation. It affects everything. They don't realize they're in it. Mm-hmm. What is this, Zach?
You're right. It's a desperate situation, and it's typically caused from it could be a financial strain, right? It could be as a result of you starting as a brand new being there. It could be a financial strain from you taking extra time off, or being an existing agent or being in here for a while, building up some level of funds, but being honest with ourselves, kind of living off of it when we hit a certain threshold. And as that funds get down, and then you're trying to turn the engines back on full force again, it creates this little panic, this little desperateness. But it's all coming from the lack of confidence. It's coming from the lack of confidence, lack of belief, but needing that result and trying to live off that. And that puts agents of all skill sets, of all time frames, in a very hard situation, because the only thing they know to do is try even harder in order to get the sale. And that's the last thing that you absolutely want to do.
Like when I think about what commission breath is, first of all, commission breath is like the worst breath. It's like the worst garlic breath ever.
It's really how the salespeople get the reputation, right? Slimy, all the different words people try to say.
Have you ever been like in a space when someone's got like the worst breath? Like it's you just don't want to even be in their presence.
Yeah.
It's like, do they not recognize? Do they not know that it's just reeking? What is commission breath to me is when you're selling out of a place of desperation where it's about you, it's not about the client. Mm-hmm. You need the sale. Everything you say and do is oozing, I'm desperate, I need this sale, this is about me, and you're speeding through, you're skipping steps. It's not a good place to be. It's certainly not a place to be able to put the client's interest first and move them to a better place. You're just trying to move yourself to a better place because typically it has to do with a financial issue.
Yep.
Would you say that has to do with finances?
Typically, if it isn't immediate, it's going to be.
Yeah.
It depends. Like typically, if you're brand new, obviously the finances is a huge part of it. The pressure is a huge part of it. And there's not a lot of history of success and renewals or anything to lean on. Even if you're an existing agent, it's a fear that financial would be an issue. It may not be immediately, but it's a confidence issue that if it's not addressed properly, it will turn into a financial issue, which compounds it even more.
Mm-hmm. Where do we see this popping up with agents? Like, where does it come from? Why does it happen?
Yeah. Well, it can happen. It will happen to everybody. That's the one thing that everybody must know. It's going to happen. If it hasn't happened,
the conditions
it's getting ready to happen.
Like everybody's going to sell with commission breath?
The pressure is going to happen.
Okay.
And how we deal with that, if we can prevent it, if all possible. The struggle is going to happen. The emotional up and down is going to happen. And where we find this is typically a new agent. Not to say typically, this is based upon our experience of the agents that we've coached and mentored. And this is typically where it happens is we have agents that come in. Typically, they don't know a lot, which also means they don't have a lot of bad habits. They're leaning for guidance, support. They follow our principled sales system, and they listen to all the trainings. They listen to a ton of podcasts. They get our flip chart. It works like gold, perfect. And then all of a sudden,
I love how you said perfect.
Perfect, and
It's perfect.
They're having success right out the gate. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't know what they don't know, but they have good enthusiasm. They're positive. They're starting something new. They have a system. They have mentors. They're excited, and everything seems to be clicking. Mm-hmm. They're getting wins. They're celebrating. They're high-fiving, and that happens and carries on for a few weeks. And then typically throughout that period of the first, I would say, 12 weeks, they're gradually starting to figure out. And this is natural. I don't think people do this on purpose, but naturally as humans, we try to take shortcuts. We want to, it works this way. The first few times we did every single step the way we're supposed to, but I'm wondering if I could shave a little time off and skip this one little part here, or don't go into so much detail here.
Because maybe they don't see the importance of why they're doing it.
Correct.
They're just doing it and it's working. They don't know which part is working or not.
How can I generate the same result
faster
with less effort in a shorter amount of time?
Yeah.
That's all they're trying to do. And they may be doing it subconsciously and not really understanding. Mm-hmm. But the problem is they're continuing to have success, because they're just making incremental changes. They're continuing to have success. And then over that period of time, they're starting to slightly drift further and further and further away from the original
their process
that was laid out that worked perfectly.
Perfect.
Perfect. Absolutely. Perfect.
Optimally. Optimal. I don't even know how to say optimal. How do you say that?
Optimally.
Optimal.
Perfect.
Adam said Optimus Prime.
That works too. And before they know it, they're having I call it a false sense of success, because they're still getting the result that almost gives them a pat on the back that they're doing everything right. It almost validates them in an incorrect way. Mm-hmm. But they then drift so far that one little, straw that breaks the camel's back, and then they fall off they fall off of it completely.
Yeah.
That time frame is typically the first 12 weeks, the first 3 months in the business, right? And then that's when agents typically also get hit with maybe a few chargebacks or a few things.
What?
In addition to...
Did he just say something that was taboo? Chargebacks.
We're not allowed to say that on here?
Nobody gets chargebacks.
We bleep that out, Adam?
You said it was perfect. They shouldn't be getting
It was. But they started drifting. We also talked about that, right?
Aha.
So at that point in time, it typically happens around the 3-month mark. The third and fourth month seems to be a relearning situation where they have to regather themselves to get back to the basics.
A forced relearning?
It is a forced relearning, because now they know what they don't know, and it's kind of shocking to them. And now they have to really dial in, and they start to understand why the path they were on at the beginning worked so well and what went wrong in that journey. And that's this is the stage, Roger, where this anxiety and fear comes along, because they've made the leap from their other career. They've taken a leap of faith. They've leaned into something. Maybe they've never done full commission sales. Maybe they're really, stretching themselves and their abilities and learning, and their emotions are all over the place. And this is the first time since they started. Not that they were scared, but they were scared and struggled.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is coming from a place where they've gotten off track. They may be getting some chargebacks. How does chargebacks, I want to explore that a little bit more. For those of you that are listening that are brand new, oftentimes if you place a policy and maybe the client doesn't pay the first premium, but you're with a company that advances you as if the first premium was going to be paid.
Yep.
Because the policy was approved, the bank account registered, but when they went to draft the account the next month on the Social Security pay date, if it's a final expense case, it doesn't process. And now it takes 30 days of them trying to collect the payment. And then after that, it goes into default. Then they've got 30 days to get it back on the book. So that 90-day window, now they're charging back your account for commissions. And for the first time, you're writing policies and you're not getting paid, because the new commission is going to pay off a chargeback that hit, because they all started hitting around that 90-day mark.
Right.
And you're like, what the heck is going on? I'm not making the money. I don't have my leads. But you didn't count on that. And oftentimes you were told up front that this was going to happen, but because it's never happened to you, you didn't feel it or experience it. Now you're in this situation where you have an emotional response, sometimes a visceral response to funds not hitting your account the way you thought they were going to.
Yep.
And then it throws you for a loop financially.
Yeah.
It happens other times too, though. We've seen it even with experienced agents.
It is. And if you guys are unsure if this applies to you, or if you have dealt this or felt with this, I got a question for you guys. Number one, ask yourself, are you in control? Right? Are you in control? And in control of what? In control of your energy, tone, and mood, and your whole attitude, your whole demeanor. And this is how you know this. If your energy, tone, your mood, or your attitude, your whole aura that you have, if it is because you have had sales success, or it's due to the sales success that you have had, then you are no longer in control, right? Because that means if you are having success, you're going to be super excited. You're going to be super energetic. You're going to be in a good mood. You're going to want to help other people. You're going to be involved in your IMO's community. You're going to be on the calls. You're going to be in there. But if you're not having success, it's going to affect your emotions as well, because you don't have emotional control of that. You're probably going to drift away. You're probably going to start calling your upline, or you withdraw. You start calling them less. You stop learning as much. and you start questioning and losing confidence and belief in yourself.
You stop showing up publicly on group meetings
Yep.
and you having these private meetings about why things are not working, but you're no longer
Yep.
leaning into the community.
Yep.
Withdrawal.
And I ask that, are you in control? Because theoretically, that is all based upon the result of a sell or a non-sell. Ideally, what you want to get to is the emotional intelligence to be able to say that your actual sell success, the sell success is the result of your positive attitude, of your tone, of your mood, of your entire energy, which means that doesn't waver based upon the activity, right? When you have that in place, regardless of the result, that's what generates the result. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I know it sounds confusing, but you need to be the one that has that, and that's going to help you and cause the positive results and the sell success that you're wanting, not the other way around.
I'm gonna ask the question I addressed earlier. I don't think we got to it. We talked about where does it come from, and what we're putting our confidence in. When else do we see it other than that 12-week window? Sometimes we see it with experienced agents?
Yeah, and to be honest,
when have you seen it with experienced agents?
There's two parts to that. It's not just in that 3-month window. I think that's where it hits you the hardest, and that's where most agents fail or fall out or completely quit and give up. It's felt the most in that period, but that little window of every 3 months kind of drifting that happens more and more, but it's felt less, right? It will happen again when you're hitting around your 6-month, 9-month, a year period. But typically, if you're able to push through, you have the memory of the up and downs. You know what it takes to get in and out of that. You have the experience, so it doesn't really affect you as much, especially beyond year 1, 2, or 3. The other place where that really comes into play is when someone breaks their momentum, or they're on a roll, or they're on a mission. And I mean, I have some agents come in mind immediately that, week in, week out, and no matter where you guys are listening from, no matter what group you're part of, there's probably somebody you guys can think of that week in, week out, it's like clockwork. It's like sun up, sundown. You know what they're going to do. You know the days they work. You know the results they have. It's just automatic. But what you will find is the second time where agents experience the most anxiety, the greatest lack of confidence and belief in themselves is coming off of life events or periods of time where they have taken off. It could be from a health issue. It could be from
even a planned vacation,
a planned vacation or a few planned vacations. Anytime where your focus and mind is off growing your business and serving your clients, it takes you time to regain that.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing is, and I say this all the time, it reminds me of Space Jam. In that one scene, man, I swear it does, where you got Charles Barkley, Sean Kemp, Muggsy Bogues are playing in the game, and all of a sudden they touch that ball, and it sucked the power from all the NBA players. And they don't know how to walk, they don't know how to chew gum, they don't know how to shoot, and they're falling all over themselves. And those little monsters took that energy and that power and that confidence, the success. And man, it's awesome. I love that. Adam knows what I'm talking about.
But
he's
gonna have fun with this here. Yeah.
Just watch the. I did bring it up because it's a perfect visual for it, because that agent can be a literal all-star in insurance.
We need to show that scene right in here.
They take a week off, and it's like they don't know how to shoot a layup anymore.
Yeah. It happens in golf.
It happens in everything.
It happened to me in golf. Just my most recent round of golf.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like I didn't know how to play.
Like, yeah, just sell the clubs, right? You're
sell them. Throw them in the lake.
Every other week. But it's the expectation is to come back and have immediate success on that very first phone call or that very first door knock, coming off of a vacation where you had no focus at all on your business. And if that doesn't happen, then you're like, okay, I had no income coming in for the last 2 weeks, maybe, could be more, or it could have been periodic multiple vacations over the last 5-6 weeks. So my income hasn't been consistent. My activity and work ethic hasn't been consistent. And I come back and immediately don't have a burst in results. Then it's like, My bills are always consistent, right? Everything else is in my life, they're still coming, but I don't have the same moving towards it. And it could be from improper planning for taking your time off. But that causes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of lack of confidence.
I've even seen it with agents who've actually gone on qualifier trips.
Yes.
We've been on some of these trips with people.
Yeah.
And the trip starts on Thursday.
Yep.
Right? They're not even started to get ready for that trip. Right? Mm-hmm. They're not packed. And then they realize, well, I got a short week this week. It's only Monday to Wednesday. We're leaving Thursday morning early.
Yep.
So I really need to be like getting ready on Wednesday. So that really only leaves me 2 days to work. I don't really know how effective I'm going to be. So I'll just get caught up on my admin. And you're literally going out of town on Thursday, and you end up taking Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off because you were leaving town on Thursday.
Yep.
And then the trip goes till the following Tuesday. So you're gone from Thursday to Tuesday. You get back home late Tuesday night because the flights were delayed. You were supposed to get back at 3, but you're not getting home till midnight. And now because of a few things, you're getting up at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, getting on the move. It's now Wednesday. And you're trying to figure out, and then you realize, oh shoot, I didn't get my lead flow. I got to get the leads going again. I got to get this piped in. And all of a sudden, that 5-day trip that was literally from a Tuesday or Thursday to a Tuesday or a 6-day trip, whatever that is, 5 days, turns into 2 weeks. And you haven't done squat in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because of basic bleed over on the front and the back end of a planned travel event. And now you're out of funds for 2 weeks because these are not paid vacations. Because when you work for yourself, guess what? You're not actually paying yourself while you're on the beach, or you're not actually paying yourself while you're in Vegas. You're not actually paying yourself while you're on that cruise, unless you've got a team and you're making overrides, or unless you got renewals.
Also, you could pay yourself a salary, which I do have a video, Adam, if you plop it up here.
Yeah.
That you can literally have income paying yourself a salary as you're going on those trips, so it relieves a lot of that pressure as well.
Yeah. So we've seen it happen like that too. So planned trips with unplanned extensions.
And I want to, this is real, and it will happen to everybody at some level, in some severity. And I want to talk about like what we do to actually fix this. And because I want to give people tools to know that, hey, if you're dealing with this or you're facing this anxiety of a new person, it doesn't mean you're different. It doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing this. It doesn't mean this opportunity is not built for you. It literally, every single one of us deal with this, and this is how we get through it. This is what our suggestions would be to help you correct that. What would be the first thing, Roger, in your mind, if somebody's dealing with this? What's the first thing that comes to mind on how to get this kind of corrected and identified?
Well, we see ups and downs like this and swings that are emotional. Mm-hmm. So these are emotional responses to external circumstances.
Nobody has ever came to me and said, I don't know if insurance is for me, when they're coming off 3 historic weeks of very high producing numbers.
Nobody ever says that. So it's an emotional response to external circumstances, which you may or may not have been party to, or may not have actually created yourself.
Right.
The only response that you can have to actually right the ship is you got to go back to facts. You got to go back to logic.
Yeah.
Because you can't emotionalize your way out of it. It's hard to go in the bathroom and psych yourself up when you're emotionally sideways. You can't do it. You can't get to the gym and look in the mirror. Let's go. It's hard to pull yourself to that place, right? You can drink 3 Red Bulls. You're just going to be wired and depressed.
Life Insurance Academy pre-workout coming soon.
There you go. So you have to go back to facts. You have to go back to logic. What were you doing in that first 60 days that was working so well? What was that? What was your process look like? What were your numbers like? So it really goes back to tracking your numbers and understanding your process. And Zach, we are big proponents of staying focused on the details because facts don't lie. Numbers don't lie. What are your thoughts on knowing your numbers and going to the facts?
You said it perfectly. It removes the emotional response. And as long as you're honest and transparent with yourself, when you look at those numbers, it will remove all of that from you. And you don't, again, the most beautiful thing about this is because a lot of us out there have, it could be pride, it could be ego, it could be introverted, whatever it is. We don't typically want to share with somebody else that we're not putting the work in.
Or we've cut corners.
Or we've cut corners. But as long as we track our numbers, like honestly track our numbers, so we know how we're running and tracking towards our goals financially, it will remove the financial stress. So quick example. If I know I need to make X dollars a week towards my income goal that is attached to what I want to accomplish with my vision in my life, not really monetary, but to trade it for memories. So when I break that all the way down to what I want to hit on a weekly basis, I'm going to take that a step further. If I know that, I'm also going to know my closing ratio. How many policies or sales is it going to take me to get to my weekly number I want? Yep. And let's just say, just for easy math, let's say my goal is just $5,000 a week. Okay. Well, if I know I'm at 50% closing ratio, just keep it simple. I know I'm probably going to need to sell probably 10 to 11 apps. Right. And when I do that, my next question is, how many presentations do I need to do to write 10, 11 apps? If it's around 50% closing ratio, well, I'm probably going to need to do somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 24 presentations, right? It's pretty simple. We're not going to close every one of them. Some of the ones that we will close may fall off the books. But if I want to have that net income, this is what I'm going to look at.
Sometimes it could be 18 because you're getting a husband and wife in one presentation.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And it could vary. But just to give you example, the point is we have to know our numbers. So I need to know how many apps I need to sell, how many presentations I need in order to sell that many apps, how many phone calls or door knocks do I have to do in order to get that many presentations, right? It could be I get a presentation every 22 door knocks, just for an example, right?
That's a lot of door knocks.
Or, yeah,
We hope it's not
or
that
phone
much.
calls, right?
Good Lord, I hope it's not that
But
much.
you need to know what that phone call is associated with, and
right.
then how many leads do I need in order to fund this whole thing.
Yeah.
But when I do that, I can easily say, I'm upset, I'm emotional, Roger, I'm struggling, I don't know if insurance is for me, I have this anxiety, I have this fear, and you're like, okay, perfect, I know you can do it, I believe in you, I've seen you do it before,
Yep.
Let's take a look at your numbers. And when you look at those numbers, you will see that maybe in a 5-week period, you've combined, in a 5-week period, you've done enough presentations that you should have done in 2 weeks.
That's right. Interestingly, I've got a book here in my hand. This book actually changed a lot for me, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Betcher. This guy was a former Major League Baseball player when they didn't make a lot of money in Major League Baseball. It's an old book. But in this book, he talks about the 2 things that saved his butt
Yep.
in business. And one of those 2 things, and this was copyrighted in 1947.
By the way, this book isn't just about raise myself from failure to success in selling. He's actually selling insurance.
Yes.
So that's what's really cool.
He got into the insurance space. But he talks about the one thing that changed everything from him, with the exception of this added piece of enthusiasm for what he was doing, was when he started tracking his numbers.
Yep.
When he started tracking his numbers. Because when you started tracking your numbers, he remembers a time, and he references in the book, Mr. Walter Lamar Talbot was the president of the insurance company agency that he worked for. And they were all in a bullpen. They would set appointments and go out and see people. And he came in to quit. And he's in there cleaning out his desk, his cubicle. And while he's in there, Mr. Talbot comes out and calls an impromptu meeting, and everybody in the bullpen gathers, and he's stuck in there. Now he can't get out. And he said, I had a lot of respect for him. He was a super nice guy, but I just realized this wasn't for me. And he said one thing that just stuck with me. He said, any good person who will commit to telling their stories 4 or 5 times a day can't help but making good in this business. And he said that one statement was like, I may not be able to control whether they say yes or no. I may not be able to control how much money's going into my bank account on a daily basis, but I can commit to telling my story about life insurance 4 or 5 times a day. That I can do. And he said, if he can do it, I can do it. He said, so all I did was I committed to that. And that started his progress, and that started success to the point where he's one of the largest, biggest successes, and author of a book that many hundreds of thousands of people have read, New York Times bestseller book.
Yeah.
But it's about his numbers. And we do a podcast. I did an interview with Kevin Montes back some time ago. We're going to put that podcast episode right there. And that episode was about the one thing that Kevin did to change everything from him. And I forget what the thumbnail title is, but he doubled or tripled his business in just 90 days. And it changed everything for him. It's about tracking your numbers. It takes the emotion out of it.
Absolutely. It's everything. You have to do that. You have to do that. If you're feeling that anxiety, it'll be gone when you track all your numbers. But again, you have to be honest and transparent with yourself about those numbers.
I think one of the other things here, before we get on to these last 2 ways to fix this, is we've even seen agents kind of lie to themselves and lie to us. Mm-hmm. They don't do it intentionally because it's not an intentional thing. It's more out of like, I don't really want to fully admit to myself that I'm cutting corners, what you said earlier.
Yeah,
and when we dive into numbers, like we've had agents say, man, I'm not getting the results out of these leads anymore. I'm just like, it's just not working for me. I'm really struggling. My premium's down, my income's down. And we go back and dissect. Well, what has changed? Well, nothing's changed. Well, when we look back last year, you were doing this many leads per week. And then what happened in the fall? Well, I realized I didn't need as many. They were stacking up, so I cut back my number of leads. Did your production cut back? No. I mean, I sailed all the way through to Christmas. Okay, great. What happened in January? Well, I ended up having 2.5 weeks off. And then I went back to the same number of leads I had in the fall, which was a lower number than I had been working all year. And now I'm not getting the same results. Well, if we actually looked at what happened is you actually dropped your number of opportunities. Your call count went down. You lost momentum from being off. And then when you look at it, it takes a while for your momentum to do this. So if you reduce your number of leads, your production just doesn't automatically drop the next week because you got stuff in the pipeline. So if they had a 60 to 90 day pipeline on leads, now they're not being honest with themselves. They're genuine with the truth and the facts to say, no, I did adjust. I reduced my number of leads because I was trying to save money on marketing, trying to lower my lead cost. So you're lowering your lead cost as you were going into the holidays, instead of keeping your foot on the gas with your marketing opportunities and your leads, so that in January 1, when you're ready to fly, you've got plenty of opportunities. Now you've got limited opportunities, but now the system's not working the way it was. When in fact, you actually changed something with the system. But if you track your numbers and you're honest with yourself and you have integrity in that process, you'll realize the emotional weight is a different story than what the facts are telling you.
One more thing on tracking your numbers. Guys, don't just track your numbers when you're struggling to pull you out of the rut and then you stop tracking your numbers when you think you're good. It's as, if not more important, to track your numbers when you are having success as well, because now you know why you're having success, and now you can be able to duplicate and teach other people and pull other people out of the rut with examples of exactly the recipe you're laying out that's working.
Yeah. There's a reason why top-ranked coaches, whether it's NCAA or in the pros, they have so many scouts, they have so many statisticians taking stats on everything because they know activity equals results.
100%.
And they can unemotionalize them when people are going through struggle. So number 1, know your numbers. What's another way, man, we can fix this?
Another one is pretty cool. And this helped me so much, but it may be new to some people, but it's segmenting your presentation. And this is a mindset activity. I've had conversations with agents all the time, and when they are feeling this way, they're feeling this anxiety, they're feeling this panic selling, and they'll do anything, they'll try anything, but they just need to have this result like now, And we have to wait a second and say, okay, what is our number one goal when we're knocking on a door or when we're calling? Oh, it's to get the sale, right? No. Not exactly. Our number one goal is, for one, them to answer. Okay. So when I talk about breaking down and segmenting your presentation is the sales process and the whole idea and the psychology behind the sell is we want to move people to a better position, right? And by doing that, there's these little stops along the way that we have to get there. Meaning, if they don't know who I am, who am I at, or I'm never knocking the door, never make that phone call, I can't get them to sign the policy at the end. So it's all in an order that one has to happen before the next one can happen, and so on. We can't skip and jump around. Mm-hmm. So if your mindset is already at the very end, and to be honest, it's already past the close, you're looking 2-3 days later, a week later, a month later at the income hitting the bank account. We are so far beyond where we're supposed to be even before we knock on this door or we dial this one phone number. So we have to reel that thing back in, and we have to segment the sell. Just to give you kind of an example, like how we would do this. Number one is, the first one is to answer the door or to get them to answer the phone. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that is your number one goal, that's all that matters. If they don't do that, I don't care how good you are at closing, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have a chance to close, right?
That's right.
So if we do that, we can actually train and implement strategies, and we can actually diagnose the part of our sales process that we need to get better at. Now we need to focus on how do we get better at door knocking? How do we get better at routing our leads? How do we get better at calling or strategies to call and what time to call? Are we triple dialing? Are we double dialing? Are we leaving voicemails? Are we calling a segment of the leads and then completely exhausting all those and then pulling another segment? Are we calling all 200 in one in a row? We can implement strategies to make that more efficient to accomplish number one goal. Again, it's not to get a commission yet. It's to literally to answer the phone or the door.
That's right.
The second one is very simple. Once they answer the phone, what's our next goal? It's not to sell a policy. It's not to close. It's not to see what they even qualify for at this point. It's literally for the introduction to gain access, or we want to say set the hook. It's to be able to stay on the phone for that 15 to 30 seconds to get that initial surprise shock. Who is this? Who are you with? Why are you here? Mm-hmm. To get that portion out of the way to now we've earned the right to stay on the phone. We literally have bought time to stay on the phone, or we've done our door knock and now we've got our stuff and now we're coming into the home.
That's right.
We've gained access. We've gained entry. That's all that matters at that point. So we can't close unless we have that opportunity to have a conversation with them.
Zach, this reminds me, right now we're in the middle of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, a couple games left, 3 or 4 games left. And as you know, my wife is an avid hockey fan. And so hockey's been on. I think they're playing again tonight. Adam's going to be watching. His team's out, our team's out, but we're watching. We're watching Florida Panthers right now play Edmonton. Florida had Edmonton down 3-0 in the series. They only needed to win one more game. Edmonton smoked them in the 4th game, like 8-1. They were up 6-0 at one point, I believe, or 6-1. It was crazy. I just blew them out. Like, they thought their goalie was unshakable like a wall, and they shook this guy's confidence. They pulled the goalie, put in their backup goalie. And their coach is a young coach. He's not, he was drafted originally for the Islanders back in like 97, I believe. He's now the coach, Chris Knobloch, for Edmonton. And his conversation with his team, when you're down 3-0, man, and you haven't won a Stanley Cup in Canada for I don't know how many years. Canada's brought the cup home, so to speak. And, of course, Edmonton has got pedigree with Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, big pedigree there. And they're down 3-0. They're not focusing on winning the Stanley Cup. His message to his team is we need to win one game. Mm-hmm. We need to play our best game. Yep. I don't want you to think about anything else. We need to win one game.
Yep. Then
if we can win that game, then we focus on one more game. Because you can't get to the end without getting to this next part of the process. So
it's the same concept in basketball.
If
you ever watch basketball, when coaches call timeouts, when momentum's shifting, their goal is how do we win the next 2 minutes? Like they literally tell the players it's 0-0. How do we win the next 2 minutes? This is what we need to do. And that's to gain momentum, to gain edge, to build confidence. But they do that with quarters. They do that with all kinds of things because it's not about that. And this is the same concept, As you segment that sale, and you could take the time to figure out every sales process, every section of your presentation that you need to segment, and your goal is to do everything you can to get as good and as sharp as you can to move to that next section. Yeah. And while you're doing that, you're becoming really darn good at this.
That's right. One final thing. So we're focused on the numbers to unemotionalize the feels.
Yep.
We're segmenting the presentation. What's the last one?
The last one is this is really cool. I love this. The win is the activity. Like, we need confidence. We're trying to build confidence. Confidence is the memory of success, but the success is whatever we deem it to be. Okay, it's whatever we feel good about it. For example, some kids, their success is to, or if you've had, let's just say you've had a knee surgery like Chris, his first success is to be able to get out of bed and walk to the bathroom. Like, that's a win, right?
That's right.
The win isn't to run his first marathon, right? That's the win. So whatever we get to deem it. The problem is us as agents, and when we are desperate, we accidentally put success so high for us that the success before we make a dial is the commission. That before we ever even come to one training or even onboarding or even fill out our first contract, we're trying to make six figures before we've done a thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to understand that. And we have to realize that the sales success or the results or the commission, it is what it is. It is the result. It's the result of what? Activity. The activity and the mindset. The activity is actually the win. So the win is the number of dials you accomplish. Like, you high five that.
The win is the number of successful segments you can get through in getting people to answer the phone. The number of segments you can get through of keeping people on the phone for that 90 seconds to earn the right to have the conversation with them.
If you can imagine creating
those are wins.
A poster board and putting all of your sections that you need to accomplish, and as you're dialing and going through, and you just tally mark however far you got, my goal is literally, now, my goal is to get, I got all these people connecting. I'm good at that now. How many of those can I get in that first 15 to 30 seconds? How many can I get in there? As I continue to progress every day, that sheet fills up. And as a result of that activity and that mindset, the commission is going to come if you have everything prioritized the right way.
Sometimes we're focusing on the result. Again, we're focusing on the full win of the Stanley Cup, and it seems so far away we can't get there. And if we put our result on the activity, it removes the emotional weight of it, and get you into a place of what Zach referred to earlier, is in a place of emotional intelligence.
Yep.
Knowing that your feelings are liars.
Yes.
Your feelings will lie to you. Your emotions will lie, and they will tell you an untruth sometimes.
Yep.
And when you go back and look at the numbers, when you go back and focus on winning at parts of your presentation, and you put the focus on the activity and the wins of accomplishing the activity, you take out the emotional weight, the roller coaster, and you can get yourself back to a level playing field and start winning again.
I have two mind hacks I'd like to share, because these are things that I've personally done to check myself, and these are things that
before you wreck yourself.
That's right. But I've also I've taught this to many agents, and it's worked. Right. Number one thing is, take today, and I'll tell you this. I'll say you're my agent, Roger. Roger, I don't want you to sell anything the rest of the day. I don't care if you sell one policy. I don't even want you to try. I don't want you to sell anything. But what I want you to do is I want you to commit to segmenting your presentation. And first of all, can you promise me to give me the best activity and try to see as many people as you can get on the phone? That's all I want you to do. And then I want you to see how many people you can actually keep on the phone. And then I want you to develop the best relationship that you've developed with anybody. I want you to actually listen. I want them to hear that you're a real person. I want them to hear your heart and that you care. And then I want you to educate them. And I want them to know that they've probably never been educated or taught their entire life about insurance. They probably only have some mixed concept from commercials and flyers of what insurance is. The least you can do, Roger, and I don't want you to sell anything, the least you can do is teach them on the differences and really educate them. Figure out what they need for the family and just give them advice, right?
Yeah.
If you do those things, you might accidentally sell a few policies today, but I don't want you to, okay? Right? If you have to write them, write the apps, but I want your goal today to just do that. And use today as a training day, use today as practice. So go ahead and remove that pressure of trying to put a result or get up that leaderboard. Just do these things to get better. I'm not worried about the sales. That's number one.
You got another one?
I do.
Okay.
The second one, because that again, that removes
Adam's
the pressure.
over there going.
He's like a spin wheel. That removes the pressure, right? So that like, okay, I can take a breath. I remove the expectations from everybody else because we put pressure on ourselves that tries to make us collapse. Now we need to fix their tone and their mindset and their energy. So I tell them this: everybody has financial pressure. Everybody could use some money. So I'll say, Roger, what if? Okay,
this is a good one, by the way.
Just play.
This
with
is
me
a
for
good
second.
one right here.
What if your wife, Rose, calls you up right now in full tears and says, Roger, we just got a check for $300,000 in the mail. Now, the first thing your mind's going to do is say, is it legit? What strings attached? What did we sign up for? Do we have to owe it back? Is there an interest rate? Let's just pretend it's all checked out and it's legit, free and clear, no taxes coming out of it. You got a check for $300,000.
I want to know why she's crying.
Right? Out of joy, probably.
Oh, out of joy. Okay.
Out of joy and excitement, right? Again, Roger, you're a brand new agent, so you're stressed.
Gotcha.
Imagine this
Gotcha.
when
Okay.
you first moved to the States doing this, and
Yeah, that would have been huge.
right. It can literally pay off bills. It can change your life.
Oh,
it will do
yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yes.
not much, but it buys you time and relieves pressure.
Yes.
So, if that happened, how would you feel amongst your coworkers in your office, or even, going out to homes? How would you feel with your energy? Right?
Oh, your energy's big.
Would you be in a negative attitude, or would you be in a really positive attitude?
Oh, you got that big energy.
Big energy, right?
Big energy.
You get big energy, right? You're going to be excited. You're going to talk different to your kids. You're going to talk different to your coworkers.
You got swagger.
You do, but
Like you earned
if
something.
you're walking through the grocery store, you probably may wave to somebody or say, "Have a good day." Like
You're going to buy the cherries when they're $6.99 a pound and not wait for them to go to $2.99 a pound.
Yes.
You are.
But what do you think your energy and your aura and your persona, everything you put off, your energy to the world and universe is going to be different. Your tone is different. It's positive. It's excited. It's like you have the best news in the world to tell somebody. Now I want you to imagine that. Capture that. You know what that sounds. You know what that feels like, because this is real money to your family. Now, how do you think that would sound if you called your next 5 clients or knocked on those next 5 doors? Do you think it would matter if
That's
one
a
or
different
two of
person
them?
calling.
Yeah. How would you sound? What would your energy be like? What would it sound like when you started teaching them about the different types of insurance? Or maybe the ability to listen and hear about their family. How would that sound? Would you connect with them better? Would they just love that positive energy and they enjoy talking to you, right? Now think about what your last 5 calls or your last 5 door knocks sound like or felt like. And it probably wasn't that same energy. The whole idea behind this is to trick your mind and just for an instant to say you have that energy, you are that positive influence. If we're serving the final expense market, right? If you're serving mortgage protection, whatever market you're serving, these people need this. They probably are, your body's probably not the best shape they've ever been in. They probably are on more medications. They probably don't feel the best. Do you think it's really fair that their job is to buy a policy so that we feel good and we have energy and we spread good vibes to our neighbors and friends? No. Our job is to take that energy that you just got from that phone call from Rose, take that into every phone call, to every sit that you have. You're being that positive influence. You're being that beacon of hope. You're being that light in their life that, wow, when Adam called, it really changed my life because of his energy, because of the way he connected, because he cared. That's what we need to give them. They don't need to give that to us based upon if they buy a policy or not, or hang up on us or cancel a policy, right? We need to be that. And if we can capture that moment, even if you have to trick yourself for doing this for 2 minutes before you make a phone call, that's what we need to give our clients, and the result from that will change your life.
2 sales hacks, guys, that Jack just went over with you is don't sell anything. Number 1. Number 2, you just won $1 million.
That's exactly right.
If you have that approach, everything's going to turn around because your attitude, your approach is different. So, do you have commission breath? Do you now know where it comes from? Do you know what it is and how stanky it is? Because it reeks. You don't want it. It comes from poor planning sometimes. It comes from unintentional absences. It comes from jumping out of your system, not knowing your numbers, getting out of your good habits, developing bad ones. But you know that you can fix it. Know your numbers, segment your presentation, focus on the activity because the win is the activity. And there's a couple hacks there we left you with.
Yep.
I think this was a good episode. If people really took this and digested it, this is a great episode for basically all agents because everyone's going to go through these struggles. And when they do, this is a great content piece. So we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did sharing it with you. And we'll see you next time on the Life Insurance Academy podcast.